Cyber Threat Brief for April 22, 2026. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, added 4 Cisco SDWAN flaws to its KEV, Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog with a Friday patch deadline. Patchy Active MQ faces active exploitation targeting 6,400 exposed servers. Microsoft shipped emergency ASB. NET Core patches for a critical authentication bypass that lets attackers forge session cookies and gain system privileges. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Cybersecurity Brief, April 22, 2026. Next section, Critical Alerts. CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, flags 4 Cisco SDWAN vulnerabilities as actively exploited, CVE 2026-20133, and 3 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. CISA added CVE 2026-20133 to its Known Exploited Vulnerabilities catalog on Monday, ordering federal agencies to patch Cisco Catalyst SDWAN manager systems by April 24. The information disclosure flaw allows unauthenticated remote attackers to read sensitive files due to insufficient file system access restrictions. On KEV Known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog with EPSS, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System 0.20, 84th percentile, due April 23, and were flagged as exploited 1 week earlier. A critical authentication bypass exploited since 2023 has EPSS 0.333, 97th percentile. Over the last several years, CISA has tagged 91 Cisco vulnerabilities as exploited, 6 of which have been used by ransomware operations, and 4 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: apply Cisco patches released in late February for all 4 CVEs. Follow CISA Emergency Directive 26.3 and Hunt and Hardening Guidance for Cisco SDWAN devices. If patches cannot be applied, discontinue use per BOD 22.1. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Patchy Active MQ code injection flaw impacts 6,400 servers. CVE 2026-34197, over 6,400 Apache Active MQ servers exposed online are vulnerable to CVE 2026-34197, a high-severity code injection flaw discovered by Horizon 3 using Claude AI after remaining hidden for 13 years. The vulnerability allows authenticated attackers to execute arbitrary code on unpatched systems due to improper input validation. CISA added the flaw to KEV on Thursday with EPSS 0.596, 98th percentile, ordering federal agencies to patch by April 30. Shadow server tracking shows most vulnerable systems in Asia, 2,925, North America 1,409, and Europe 1,334. 2 prior Active MQ flaws were exploited by Tell You the Pass ransomware, and 2 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action: update to Active MQ Classic versions 6.2.3 or 5.19.4. Search broker logs for suspicious connections using Internal Transport Protocol VM with broker config equals xbean, http://query parameters. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Microsoft SharePoint 0-day under active attack. CVE 2026-32201. Over 1,300 Microsoft SharePoint servers remain unpatched against CVE 2026-32201. A spoofing vulnerability exploited as a 0-day and still under active attack. The flaw affects SharePoint Enterprise Server 2016, SharePoint Server 2019, and SharePoint Server Subscription Edition. Successful exploitation allows unauthenticated attackers to perform network spoofing by exploiting an improper input validation weakness. CISA added the vulnerability to KEV with EPSS 0.20, 84th percentile, ordering federal agencies to patch by April 28. Fewer than 200 systems have been patched since Microsoft released security updates last week. Action: apply April 2026 Patch Tuesday updates for all SharePoint versions. Microsoft has not disclosed exploitation details or threat actor attribution. Sources: Bleeping Computer. Microsoft ASB. NET Core Emergency Patches for Critical Privilege Escalation. CVE 2026-40372. Microsoft released out-of-band security updates to patch CVE 2026-40372, a critical ASB. NET Core Privilege Escalation Vulnerability in Data Protection Cryptographic APIs. The flaw allows unauthenticated attackers to gain system privileges by forging authentication cookies. Microsoft discovered the issue after user reports of decryption failures following NET 10.0.6 installation. A regression in Microsoft ASP.NET Core. Data Protection 10.0.0-10.0.6 NuGet packages causes the managed authenticated encryptor to compute HMAC validation over wrong bytes and discard the hash, allowing attackers to forge payloads that pass authenticity checks and decrypt protected data in auth cookies, anti-forgery tokens, temp data, and OIG state. Action: update Microsoft ASP.NET Core Data Protection package to 10.0.7 immediately and redeploy. Rotate data protection keyring if any forged payloads may have been used during the vulnerable window to authenticate as privileged users. Sources: Bleeping Computer Microsoft Security Advisory. Next section, Ransomware and Extortion. System BC Command and Control Server reveals 1,570 plus victims in the Gentleman ransomware operation. Checkpoint researchers discovered a System BC Command and Control Server linked to the Gentleman ransomware as a service operation, revealing a botnet of over 1,570 compromised victims. System BC establishes SOC 5 network tunnels and connects to its C2 using custom RC4 encrypted protocol, downloading and executing additional malware with payloads written to disk or injected directly into memory. The Gentleman has claimed over 320 victims on its data leak site since emerging in July 2025, targeting Windows, Linux, NAS, and BSD systems with a Go-based locker. The group uses group policy objects for domain-wide compromise, deploys System BC for data exfiltration and remote access, and disables Windows Defender by pushing PowerShell scripts during lateral movement. Sources: The Hacker News. 3 former ransomware negotiators plead guilty to Black Cat attacks, and Gilo Martino, a former ransomware negotiator at Digital Mint, pleaded guilty to conspiring with Black Cat Alf, ransomware operators to extort U.S. companies. While working as a negotiator for 5 victims, Martino shared confidential information about victims' negotiation positions and insurance policy limits with Black Cat attackers, helping maximize ransom demands. He also deployed ransomware alongside accomplices Ryan Goldberg and Kevin Tyler Martin between April 2023 and November 2023. Their victims paid ransoms totaling over $75 million, including a nonprofit that paid $26.8 million and a financial services firm that paid $25.7 million. Law enforcement seized $10 million in assets from Martino, including vehicles, digital currency, a food truck, and a luxury fishing boat. Sources: Bleeping Computer Dark Reading The Hacker News The Register Cyberscoop Data Breaches. Net Security Week. Former FBI official urges terrorism designations. Homicide charges for hospital ransomware attacks. Former FBI Cyber Division Chief Cynthia Kaiser testified before a House Homeland Security Committee hearing, urging Congress to investigate terrorism designations for ransomware groups targeting hospitals and critical infrastructure. Kaiser called for federal prosecutors to evaluate felony homicide charges when ransomware attacks on healthcare facilities cause patient deaths. A 2023 University of Minnesota study found hospital mortality rates increased by 20% during and after ransomware attacks, with at least 47 deaths attributable to hospital ransomware between 2016 and 2021. FBI statistics show healthcare ransomware incidents doubled from 238 in 2024 to 460 in 2025, making it the top targeted sector. Sources: Risky Biz News The Register Cyberscoop. Next section, Business and Infrastructure Threats. Surge in Bomger RMM, Remote Monitoring and Management, Exploitation Demonstrates Supply Chain Risk. CVE 2026-1731. A critical remote code execution flaw in Bomger, Remote Monitoring and Management tool, is being exploited to spread ransomware and compromise supply chains. CVE 2026-1731 is on CISAKEV, ransomware linked, with EPSS 0.815, 99th percentile, due February 16. The vulnerability allows attackers to leverage compromised MSP, managed service provider, access to deploy ransomware across multiple client environments simultaneously. Action: apply Bomger patches immediately. Review remote access logs for suspicious connections. Implement MSP vendor risk management controls. Sources: Dark Reading. Scattered Spider member Tyler pleads guilty. Tyler Robert Buchanan, 24, a British national and senior Scattered Spider member, pleaded guilty to wire fraud conspiracy and aggravated identity theft. Buchanan admitted his role in SMS-based phishing attacks in summer 2022 that led to intrusions at Twilio, LastPass, DoorDash, and MailChimp. The group used stolen data to conduct SIM swapping attacks that siphoned at least $8 million in cryptocurrency from individual victims. FBI investigators tied Buchanan to phishing domains after discovering the same username and email address used to register numerous phishing sites. Buchanan fled the UK in February 2023 after a rival gang invaded his home and assaulted his mother, was arrested in Spain in June 2024, and extradited to the US in April 2025. He faces over 20 years in prison. Sources: Krebs on Security. Cisco Phishing and MFA, Multi-Factor Authentication, Exploitation Trends, 2025. Cisco Talos reported that phishing attacks targeted MFA workflows in 40% of 2025 incidents, with cascaded phishing campaigns leveraging compromised accounts to create specialized attacks within networks and against trusted partners. IT-focused phishing keywords became more technical, using words like tampering, domain, configuration, and token. Attackers abused Microsoft 365 Direct Send to spoof internal email addresses and deliver lures from inside organizations without compromising real accounts. Nearly one-third of 2025, MFA spray attacks targeted identity and access management applications, while device compromise attacks surged 178%. Higher education was the most targeted sector for device compromise due to diverse unmanaged devices, poorly patched systems, and low device verification policies. Sources: Talos blog. Next section, Windows/Active Directory Security. Microsoft, Detection Strategies Against Infiltrating IT Workers. Jasper Sleet, Microsoft Threat Intelligence, published guidance on detecting fraudulent remote IT workers, Jasper Sleet, North Korea aligned, who pose as legitimate hires using stolen or fabricated identities and AI-assisted deception to gain trusted access. Threat actors systematically survey career sites and external hiring portals to identify technical roles, use generative AI to analyze job postings and construct tailored fake digital personas, and submit highly convincing applications. Microsoft observed Jasper Sleet accessing Workday, recruiting web service endpoints from known actor infrastructure, indicating discovery of open roles and recruitment workflows. Organizations using Workday can monitor and detect fraudulent activity in pre-recruitment and post-recruitment phases through Microsoft Defender for cloud apps. Action: monitor HR SAW telemetry for anomalous access patterns to external-facing recruiting APIs. Implement enhanced identity verification for remote IT hires. Review Workday logs for a PI calls from suspicious infrastructure. Sources: Microsoft Security blog. Windows Defender exploits turn built-in security into attacker tool. 3 proof-of-concept exploits are being used in active attacks against Microsoft's Windows Defender. 2 remain unpatched. The exploits allow attackers to weaponize the built-in security platform for malicious purposes. Action: monitor Windows Defender logs for anomalous behavior. Implement defense-in-depth controls beyond native Windows security. Sources: Dark Reading. Next section, General Security News. Versal breach linked to employee account at context. AI a context. AI employee was infected with an infostealer, allowing hackers, Shiny Hunters Group, to access the AI company's systems and pivot to Versal's Google Workspace environment. Attackers used the access to steal credentials for Versal's cloud infrastructure. Stolen data is being auctioned online. Sources: Risky Biz News. France's ID agency, ANTS, breached hackers breached ANTS, the French government agency managing identity documents, driving licenses, and vehicle registrations. The hacker claims to have stolen 12.7 million data rows and is selling ANTS data on underground forums. The French government confirmed the breach on Monday. Sources: Risky Biz News. Mustang Panda's new Lotus Lite variant targets India banks. South Korea Policy Circle's Acronis researchers discovered a new Lotus Lite backdoor variant attributed to Chinese nation-state group Mustang Panda. The backdoor communicates with dynamic DNS-based C2 over HTTPS and supports remote shell access, file operations, and session management. The latest variant targets India's banking sector, using lures masquerading as HDFC Bank software and South Korean policy circles through spoofed Gmail accounts and Google Drive staging. The attack begins with a compiled HTML, CHM, file embedding a legitimate executable and rogue DLL, dynamic link library, using DLL sideloading to extract and run the Lotus Lite malware. Sources: The Hacker News. Next section, Patch Priority. Cisco SDWAN Manager 4 CVEs actively exploited. CIS a KEV deadline April 23/24. Patch immediately. Patchy Active MQ CVE 2026-34197. EPSS 0.596, 6,400 servers vulnerable, CIS a KEV due April 30. Update to 6.2.3 or 5.19.4. Microsoft SharePoint CVE 2026-32210 0-day under active attack, CIS a KEV due April 28. Apply April Patch Tuesday updates. Microsoft ASB. NET Core CVE 2026-40372 critical privilege escalation. Update data protection package to 10.0.7 and rotate keyrings. Bomger RMM CVE 2026-1731, EPSS 0.815, ransomware linked, actively exploited. Patch immediately. Next section, vulnerability disclosures. Siemens Industrial Control Systems, multiple advisories. CIS published 11 Siemens advisories covering vulnerabilities in Scalent's W700 wireless access points, Sense Live X3050, 11 CVEs allowing complete device takeover, Silex Technology SD330AC and AMC Manager, 13 CVEs including buffer overflows, Analytics Toolkit, improper certificate validation, Synic NMS, authentication bypass, Rugged Com Crossbow, privilege escalation, TPM2. 0 implementations, out-of-bounds read, industrial edge management, authorization bypass allowing remote device access, and Rugged Com Station Access Controller, SQLite memory corruption. Action, review CIS advisories ICSA 26100 and 11.1 through ICSA 26100 and 11.12. Apply vendor patches where available. Sense Live did not respond to coordination. Contact vendor directly. Sources, CIS Industrial Control Systems, Advisories. Hardy Barth Celia EV Charge Controller, CVE 2025-5873, CVE 2025-10371, 2 critical vulnerabilities in Hardy Barth Celia EV Charge Controller firmware 2.3.81 allow unrestricted file upload via /firmware. PHP and /API. PHP endpoints. Exploitation could crash the device or allow remote code execution. Hardy Barth did not respond to CIS coordination requests. No patches available? Action. Contact Hardy Barth for mitigation guidance. Restrict network access to charge controller management interfaces. Sources, CIS Advisory ICSA 26100 and 11.5. 0 Motorcycles Bluetooth Pairing Vulnerability. CVE 2026-1354 0 Motorcycles firmware versions 44 and prior enable attackers to forcibly pair a device with motorcycles via Bluetooth. Once paired, attackers can use over-the-air firmware updating to upload malicious firmware. The motorcycle must be in Bluetooth pairing mode, and the attacker must be in proximity and understand the full pairing process. Action, pair devices in secure locations. Complete full pairing process and confirm success. Store keys securely. Update to firmware releasing in May 2026. Sources, CIS Advisory ICSA 26100 and 11.6. Cohere AI Terrarium Sandbox Escape. CVE 2026-5752, a critical vulnerability, CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, 9.3. And Cohere AI's Terrarium Python Sandbox allows arbitrary code execution with root privileges via JavaScript prototype chain traversal in the Pyodide WebAssembly environment. The sandbox fails to prevent access to parent or global object prototypes, allowing sandboxed code to manipulate objects in the host environment. Successful exploitation enables container escape, unauthorized file access, network service reach, and potential privilege escalation. The project is no longer actively maintained, and the vulnerability is unlikely to be patched. Action. Disable features allowing users to submit code to the sandbox. Segment networks to limit attack surface. Deploy web application firewalls. Monitor container activity. Limit container access to authorized personnel. Sources, The Hacker News. Progress MoveIt WAF. Loadmaster vulnerabilities. Progress patched multiple vulnerabilities in MoveIt WAF and Loadmaster that could be exploited for remote code execution, OS command injection, and WAF detection bypass. Sources, Security Week. Google Antigravity remote code execution researchers discovered a remote code execution vulnerability in Google Antigravity. Cybercriminals are using its reputation to deliver malware. Sources, Security Week. Next section, Trends and Context. Today's stories highlight the convergence of 3 persistent threats. Actively exploited vulnerabilities in enterprise infrastructure. Cisco SD-WAN, Apache ActiveMQ, SharePoint, the professionalization of ransomware operations through insider threats, digital mint negotiators betraying clients, and the continued targeting of identity systems and MFA workflows as the primary attack vector. The calls for terrorism designations and homicide charges for hospital ransomware attacks reflect the escalating real-world impact of cyber operations beyond data loss and financial damage. That concludes today's Cyber Threat Brief. From Carolina Clear Tech. Stay patched, stay vigilant.